On this Family First now, we're talking about the importance of vaccinating your children before the start of the school year. And joining me now, for the first time, I've never gotten to meet her before, Dr. Melissa Held from the Department of Infectious Diseases and Immunology at Connecticut Children's Medical Center. Glad to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, glad to have you here. I just want to have you in now to talk about the best ways to get your children ready for back to school right now. What are some of the basic tips you can give us?
So I think one of the best things to do is to try to start a few days to maybe even a week early to get them back to that school routine. So trying to get back to bed on time, whatever their night before school routine is to start doing that a little bit early, not just the night before school starts.
That's always, good thing number one, because I've gotten caught with that before, trying to change things by 3 hours. As far as the checkup, is that something every kid should be getting right before school?
Yes, absolutely. And it may not be right before school. Usually it's around the child's birthday. It's a good time to remember to make the appointment for your child, making sure that they see their regular doctor, making sure their growth and development is on track, and making sure all their vaccines are up to date to get ready to go back to school.
Yes, let's talk about that too. The vaccine schedule, I think, every parent gets it, whether you remember it or not. I can't even remember off the top of my head when my children are due. But is that something you have to keep in mind straight up through the teenage years?
It is. So, I think everyone remembers that children get vaccines, especially in babies. They're every few months. But there's also vaccines that they need as adolescents. So there's a few that are very important. There's a tetanus, diphtheria, pertussis booster.
Okay.
That's called the Tdap.
Yes.
There's also the meningococcal vaccine, which prevents diseases, certain types of meningitis, which can be very dangerous. And then there's an HPV, a human papillomavirus vaccine for adolescents that helps prevent certain kinds of cervical cancer and genital warts for men and women.
I know I had to get a booster about a year ago before my child was born. I think it was a Tdap booster. Is that
It
true?
probably was. So we're starting to see more outbreaks of diseases that require boosters. So the pertussis part of that, the tetanus part of that. We were seeing a resurgence of pertussis in past years, and it was really because older adults and adolescents were having what we call waning immunity. They weren't, they hadn't had a vaccine for a long time, and so they were passing pertussis on to babies who are not yet completely vaccinated.
Okay, and talk to me about this, because it's sort of a numbers game when we're looking at vaccinations. I know most parents probably just think of it as solely a personal decision that only affects them and their children.
Right.
It's not how it works. There's some people who just simply can't get vaccines. They need to be protected by the group. It's called herd immunity or community immunity, but I don't think most people know what that means.
Yeah, so herd immunity, it's a kind of immunity that it's when a certain percentage of the population is vaccinated. It helps protect those who can't be immunized.
Yeah.
So you need a certain amount of the population vaccinated, getting immunity to certain types of diseases, and then it protects those who can't be vaccinated. So very young infants who are not completely vaccinated, individuals who have perhaps cancer, who are getting chemotherapy, who are immunosuppressed, and then other individuals who are too ill to become vaccinated. So it is really, you're protecting not only your child, but all of those in the community when you vaccinate your children.
And some of those rates that you need to hit that threshold are starting to drop below, and we're starting, like measles is coming back.
Yeah, actually in 2010, they had the most number of cases of measles we've had in the U.S. in many, many years. And it was because of a traveler who had come from somewhere else who brought measles into this country. And it was really a big outbreak, primarily in California, but it was mostly among those who were not vaccinated.
Yeah, because if you get enough people vaccinated, it's like having a shield around that unvaccinated person. You drop below it, next thing you know, you have an outbreak on your hands. That's why it's important for you to get your child vaccinated if she or he is healthy enough to get it done, because you could be protecting the person next to you, somebody who lives down the street. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Hale.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you. Glad
too.
to have you on. Let's have you on again sometime.
Okay, thank you.
All right, coming up next on the Fox 61 Morning News, Aisha.
You may know